Yo, 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 what is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Free to Grow CFO podcast, where if you listen to us, you know we're diving deep into conversations about scaling a D2C brand, but we're talking about doing it with a profit focused mindset. Why? Because businesses exist to turn a profit, or else, as I like to say, they're just an expensive hobby. I'm your host, John Blair, founder of Free to Grow CFO. We are the go to outsource finance and accounting firm for 8 and 9 figure D2C brands. And as you can see, today I'm here with my buddy Tim Clark from the RetailRx. Tim, what is happening, man?
I just want to know on your podcast, are you usually just talking, are you using like throwing words out like EBITDA and in the red, in the black? I don't know all the cool like CFO kind of words, but I feel that you have some real good flex ones that you might drop today.
Yeah, man, you know what? I'll be looking for opportunities to drop any of that stuff that we can. But you know what? Tongue in cheek or not on that, we're all about growing a brand, right? And we're going to be talking about the connection to growth strategy and profit, right? Because you can't have one without the other. But we want to be a resource to help brands scale, right? And there's all this crap out there about all different kinds of hacks and tactics. We're trying to get real here. We're here to talk with real entrepreneurs like my buddy Tim, and get the real nitty gritty of like what it takes to get in the trenches and scale a brand. And I couldn't think of anyone better to chat about this in the realm of Amazon growth strategy than you, Tim. So before we dive into chatting more about growth, I want everyone to hear a little bit about your background and your entrepreneurial journey. Because quite frankly, before I hit record, I was like, hey, Tim, what do you want to talk about? You've done so many different things. You have your hands in so many different areas. What do you want to talk about, man? I feel like we probably have 5 or 6 episodes we could possibly do. But so let's start a little bit with your background and your journey, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, background, born and raised San Diego. And I'm 44 years old, which is like I became the older guy. Like I feel I'm older guy in the company. And in some of these brackets you fill out, I'm now like bumping up, not a level up, definitely, but like, dude, coming up, I loved video games. And I would be playing, Nintendo. I'd go over to a friend's house, play Sega, and there was Nintendo Power, the magazine that you could pick up and you can read how to do secret moves that
Oh
maybe
yeah, I
people
remember
didn't
that,
know.
man.
And then there became like this joystick. I mean, you would be playing track and field and you would get a pencil and you just like to go really fast. Then they came out with this thing called the NES Advantage, and you would hold a button down and it would be turbo and it would just be a game changer. Okay. That little button, a turbo button, that changed my life. I loved video games in the arcade sense, which now they're coming back a little bit, but I've always enjoyed finding cheat codes in life that help me, destroy an opponent if you're talking Street Fighter 2, but also kind of, I don't know if game is the right word, but all of these platforms, the eBays, the Amazon, the Poshmark, the Shopify, all of, I don't know if they call them the Shopify, the Amazon, but it takes a lot of hours. They say 10,000 hours to master something. And I know anybody in the digital world, if you are truly great at your art, you are putting in that amount of time. And a lot of the Amazon people you meet, a lot of the Shopify people, they're going to be highly ADHD with their minds going all over the place. But that is the way that you need to be able to react to the changes and pivot as necessary and go an entirely different direction. Yeah, born and raised San Diego, video games, hip hop, sports. I was always playing baseball, playing soccer, playing basketball. I was never the best on the field, but I took a lot of pride in being a captain and being like, yo, 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 come on, or a hype man. So I've always
Hell
been
yeah.
that within a company as well. If there's tracksuit Tuesdays going on, like I'm coming when the flyest tracksuit, you know what I mean? So I believe in, I'm 44, but in my mind, I'm still 15, 16, 17. And dude, I haven't stopped monstering up. And it's really cool in e-commerce to actually look at numbers. Top line revenue always going to be a big thing. But once you get an understanding on your profit dollars after everything has been clawed away and you see that growing and you see the business owners that you're working under like be super stoked and want to give you more budget to grow your business, I love that. And that's the success I've been able to see with Amazon going back to when I started in like 2009, 2010.
2009, 2010. Man, I got on Amazon with Guardian Bikes in 2016, and that feels like looking back to 2016, like 8 years ago, I feel like that was like the early days. Because in many ways, it still was the early days, right, of Amazon. It was such a different platform. But like going back to the very beginning of you getting on Amazon, like what was Amazon like then that might be surprising to people relative to how it is today?
Yeah, I went to go work for a company called Skills. So Skills later got acquired. They're owned under the Implus umbrella right now. And working at Skills, we didn't have a lot of people there. And there was just kind of this, hey man, if I don't know how to do it, I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to figure it out. Sometimes I'm going to completely blow it and make a mistake, but I'm never going to make that mistake again. And there, I had an entry level job. I was a logistics coordinator. I never knew what the word logistics meant. I've always worked in warehouses and mail rooms and worked on the flow of goods from kind of manufacturer to the distribution center to end customer if you're talking mailroom. And that was
Hmm.
like the early stages of D2C, people ordering and then shipping it to customers. But anyway, yeah, over at Skills, it was just one of the many customers that I was helping out the sales team on. So my buddy Jeff Shade, he ran the sales for some of the big accounts like Sports Authority. Kind of wild to say that they're no longer around, but
Yeah.
Sports Authority, Academy, Big Five, Amazon, that made up kind of Western to Central region, which Jeff covered. And I just helped him out. And as I was helping him out, I'm like, oh, dude, this is crazy because Amazon carries every single item. Like it's not, Walmart might take an item or two, but Amazon carried everything. And then from my days of, yeah, let me stop there before I go on to 17 tangents.
So, how did you transition from that initial role into Amazon growth strategy?
Yeah, yeah. So I was helping out with Amazon, and I remember when I started, it was $250,000. Probably a top 20 customer of ours as Skills. I jumped in, was helping my buddy Jeff, and yeah, eventually I took over ownership and I would work with him on it too, but I worked with more teams internally and we ramped that business up to 17 million in 5 years.
Wow,
And I don't have an MBA. There was no Amazon school. There was nothing like that. I loved relationships. I've always built relationships with vendor managers, with buyers, and I always took chances, which are really gambles. And it's hard to
for sure.
justify that to a CFO, to a president, and things like that. But in order to win on Amazon, yeah, you need to take some gambles.
So you guys were selling Vendor Central. So
Yep.
for those of you that don't know, so it's interesting. There's still plenty of brands that are on Vendor Central, but I feel like it was bigger back in the day. Like it was more common back in the day.
Dude, I remember the days before there was a marketplace.
For sure. Yeah, before there was third party sellers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So like Guardian, when we got on Amazon 2016, there was both of them were prevalent, but obviously like the third party marketplace or what people know as Amazon Seller Central was starting to grow in popularity. We had a stint with Vendor Central where we sold direct to Amazon. They stock the goods, they're the seller on the listing, right? They take the inventory risk. They buy like big POs at a time. And but I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not. It would make sense based on seeing how like few vendor central opportunities I see out there in the marketplace, but that Seller Central is actually vastly more profitable for Amazon because they don't take on the inventory risk. It's like they're basically making advertising and service revenue basically for FBA. But like walk us through really quick like growing that business, that vendor central business from 250K to 17 million. Like, how did you do it? What were some of the mistakes you made? Like, how did you guys pull that off?
Yeah, mistakes we made. I don't know how to forecast anything. Like, I like selling things and knowing, oh, I remember we had this item, it was a weighted jump rope. Walmart had the item in their stores, like every door at Walmart. And then all of a sudden, they stopped ordering it from us. So we had 30,000 units. We didn't have a channel for it. And I said, okay, 30,000 units. Can I take some chances on it? Tim, what do chances mean? Okay, here's my spreadsheet. Here's my plan. This is what I do want to do across promotional dollars. Then that was when PPC was coming on Amazon. So like an
Mm,
early mover on that spot where somebody at my company now, shout out Kelsey Olenoff, like she got involved on the advertising side. So at first it was me and my buddy Jeff just kind of figuring it out, talking with all of these people. But as the business grew, you brought in marketing teams. I was sitting with the CFO at all times talking inventory levels, dollars, and different things like that. So it was very fast growth. And you're not going to be given, like, oh, Tim, go hire four other people right now. It's more, you have these people on your team. How can you get them to help you out? And
hmm
so that was cool back in the days. I'd have different people helping me out on different things. Like I think about Scott Stroman, like he was helping me out on detail. He was a product guy and he was doing product marketing things, getting information for me to build out my website. So now it wasn't me writing all the bullet points. It was Scott, give me some information on the product. Okay, let's figure out a cool way to write this. Now SEO comes into play. Oh, we better get the right keywords. And so there's all of these in the digital space. There are so many shifts and transitions that can literally come out of nowhere. In the early days, oh man, like there's people that aren't ready for it and they lose market share. And in order to get that market share back, you're going to lose a lot of profit dollars in discounts and advertising. So with Amazon, it was, promotional dollars. And am I getting off here?
No, no, no. What I was actually going to ask is at what point, at what point did your experience personally start shifting towards Seller Central, or did it?
Yeah. So, there was all of this chatter going back, and you mentioned it before that FBA is more profitable than 1P. I would totally disagree with that because I would run it on some, depending on what categories you're in.
Well, actually, just to clarify, what I was talking about is I heard that for Amazon it's more profitable, that they make more money on the third party because they don't have to buy the inventory, right? Like they don't have to place these big POs. And if you think about it, like it's kind of genius in my opinion, right? Because they don't buy inventory. You pay them 15% as your seller like listing fee, right? So they just get 15%. And then on top of that, you're paying them for storage for all their warehouse operations, basically paying them as a 3PL. They're arbitraging their shipping rates where they're getting ridiculously killer shipping rates, but they're marking them up and charging them to you. And then you're spending your ad dollars on their platform. And so it's this like amazing bit. So I've heard that they're trying to get less people on Vendor Central and push them to Seller Central because they make way more money.
Yeah, and there's been some big developments lately. I don't know if you've been up on Amazon 1P news or just Amazon news in general, but there were a lot of brands, smaller tier brands, let's say in probably the 1 to 2 million up to 10 million vendor central accounts that got an email last week telling them you're not going to have a buyer anymore. You need to shift over to Seller Central, and
I
that's
heard that.
that's that's major. Now, the thing is, a lot of these same brands, they didn't have a vendor manager the last couple years to, you know what I mean? So if you are wise, you would have been running a hybrid account. A hybrid account meaning you have a 1P vendor central account and then you have a 3P seller central account. Here's the problem. Amazon doesn't want you doing both. 1P and 3P are siloed. They don't work together on a team for Amazon. They are completely siloed. 1P accounts want 3P business. 3P business wants 1P accounts. But
Well, hold on. I want to riff on this a little bit more because you brought up some things that I think a lot of people don't know about. I have experience with this because we did both at Guardian, and we ultimately moved to Seller Central, and then eventually moved off of Amazon a number of years later. But let's dive into this because I think this is actually something that a lot of people don't know the inner workings, right? And so back up really fast. One, just to clarify for everyone, 1P meaning first party. Again, analogous with Vendor Central, you're selling direct to Amazon. They're the seller, right? 3P meaning you're part of the third party marketplace, analogous with Amazon Seller Central. You are the seller. You as the brand are the seller. You're just using Amazon's site and you're using possibly FBA because you can't get Prime, generally speaking, because seller fulfilled Prime, whole nother thing, but that's been largely decremented, right? And used to be a thing. But let's talk about what you were just mentioning with Amazon's structure and like as an org, right? The Seller Central, it's like the right arm doesn't know what the left arm is doing. We experience this at Guardian. Like the people who run Vendor Central accounts have nothing to do with the people that run FBA and run Amazon Seller Central, and they couldn't know less. They don't even know who each other are, and getting them connected is next to impossible. Like, can you riff on that a little bit more so people can understand how this all works?
yeah, so originally what was happening on the 1P side is if, over my career, I've worked at several different brands, and some of them I had SKU counts from 200 to 300. Okay, it's very easy to lose sight of a SKU or two that goes out of stock for a particular reason. You can have the craziest, back in the day, you could have the craziest spreadsheets ever, but a lot of this, unless you're looking at every single detail page often, you're not going to know what's happening. So as you get better tools to track all of this going on, you might find out in the 1P world or the Vendor Central world that an item is crapped out, can't realize a profit, CRAP. At that point, a Vendor Central or a vendor manager is going to work with the vendor, and they're going to say, hey, we have a bad price match in the marketplace. And in order for us to be profitable, we're going to need $2.11 per unit in funding while this item's at this price, unless you can go update the price and work on it yourself. Okay. So from there, you have some items that go out of stock, or maybe items, Amazon's ordering system is not picking them up. You are losing revenue because of this. So a lot of accounts, 1P accounts, would have a 3P account under a different name and just kind of not a shell company per se, but, operating kind of on a hush hush independently. Then you're able to ship some units in of this item that Amazon 1P is not ordering. So
Yep.
3P account, ship in to FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. Now you're starting to ring up some sales at a price point that you control.
Yeah, and
Boom,
you're competing with Amazon's 1P listing.
But if they're out of inventory and now you have the buy box, meaning you're the one getting the sales and you're making more margin, now you got something. But then what Amazon's algorithms, they say, oh, we're selling this unit, we don't have inventory, boom. Then you get the order all of a sudden for a lot more than you expected. And what you could do on the 3P side is play some games. I'm not going to talk about those games. So then you're ready to move 3P, where 3P, they've always had more tools. They've always had reporting. They've always had more capabilities to get things done. But 1P vendors, every Sunday night, you get all of those replen orders every single week. It's nice, man.
Okay, hold on. I literally had this exact experience at Guardian Bike, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Just like, I know it too well, unfortunately, because it's a challenge. So like, let's take a step back here. Let's talk about you're scaling a brand, right? You have this opportunity to sell direct to Amazon on Vendor Central. What's the beauty of it? Like Tim said, you're getting bulk orders, right? And if you eventually, this is probably like this would take us on a tangent, so maybe I just say this and then we shut up about it. But like, If you get really good, which you did at Guardian, eventually we're like, hey, direct import orders. You buy containers straight from the factory. But let's leave that to the side, right? But so let's say it's all domestic, so you're just getting orders like Tim said, weekly, right? And you're fulfilling those, but it's not onesie twosie like on D2C, right? Or even just on Seller Central, where you're getting one consumer order at a time. You're getting bulk orders. That's nice, right? Because you, for multitude of reasons, but you have invoices that you can invoice to Amazon that are tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can go factor those and borrow against them if you want cash flow immediately. There's all these different things you can do. It's nice to get those bulk orders, right? But what's the downside of all this? We used to get told this all the time, and I know you're gonna probably laugh when I say this, Tim. Okay, so the vendor manager, how many times did I hear like, oh yeah, the algorithm's just placing those POs? And you're like, so there's like this mythical, it's like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, right? Everyone's always like, the algorithm, the algorithm, the algorithm. And you're like, hey, listen, dude, you guys keep buying, the algorithm keeps buying bikes that we know are not good sellers. They're colors. We know this from our D2C site. Like, why are you buying so many of that color, but the color that crushes it and is already stocked out because it's already crushed it on your Amazon listing, you're not placing any more POs. And so we would start freaking out because the listing starts losing momentum. We're losing sales, right? People think the bike doesn't exist. And so we started our own Seller Central account, and we would just have stock available. We wouldn't have the buy box when Amazon was in stock, but as soon as they went out of stock, we got the buy box, right? And like, quite frankly, we weren't at the time, we weren't necessarily trying to game the system. We were just trying to keep the listing from going down, but we would be trying to like bang down the door. I'm actually not lying. One quarter, because we ran the company on EOS. We did quarterly planning. We did our quarterly planning in freaking Seattle, and didn't even tell our vendor manager we were showing up in Seattle. We were going to just try to find him. And we got there, and we had some meetings with Amazon FBA, the global team. I forget their name. Again, they don't know anything about our vendor manager, completely different team, right? But we just emailed our vendor manager like, oh, dude, we're in Seattle. Any chance we could meet up for lunch, right? And we had to do that because the freaking algorithm is like, it's just buying all these quantities that make no sense. We're getting forced to have to put up these Seller Central listings, right? Just so that the listing doesn't lose momentum. Mind you, we're spending ad dollars on the Vendor Central side and on the Seller Central side. So we're trying to keep momentum. And it's just like, it feels like a game of whack-a-mole sometimes. And like no one's actually running the listing. It's just this Wizard of Oz algorithm, you know?
Oh yeah, no, but some of the things that I love with Amazon, and this goes back to when I would play Street Fighter 2 back in 91, 92, there were these moves you can do. Guile could do a touch of death where he threw you without touching you. Dalsim could turn invisible. Like you could turn off the different things like that. So what is nice is, all right, let's say you used to be able to do some bulk buys with Amazon, and I'm trying to think what the program was called. Anyway, you ship in units to Amazon. They're sitting on a lot of stock. Okay. After 90 days, it hits their aged inventory report. And if they haven't been selling anything, they have auto-generated discounts that go. So then what I would do is I would track that, because now all of a sudden you're starting to sell more units. Then I would add a coupon on top of that. Then I would run advertising. Then I would discount it even more. Then all of a sudden, this item that was just complete dead stock in your warehouse and their warehouse has finally gotten to a price where consumers want to purchase it. Me on the brand side, I'm literally going, brand store, right there, smack on the front. You have an influencer talking about an item, direct them back to Amazon. Loves that external traffic coming over to Amazon. Now what happens? Amazon is moving through all that overstock at a crazy rate, but their system's not going, oh, we have it discounted. So then Amazon, who was just completely effed with inventory, they come in and buy a ton of units off full wholesale, knowing that you're never going to have to fund taking them back as an RTV. So I remember sometimes we'd be in these meetings and I'd say, they're ordering a year and a half supply of this product. And we were like, ship it, ship it, ship it. get it out, get it out, get it out. And we'd be like, oh my God. So then it became, how can we get more of these deals placed? And that was like, that was the game, the
Yeah.
advertising game. And you have so many levers. You talk about your photography, your hero image, your secondary image, the advertising copy, the brand store, like all of these things can be A/B tested and tweaked till you find that right velocity. Then you get moving. Then your advertising game, it better be on point, and you better have the right automations, and you better have the right rules set up, or else there's going to be a ton of wasted cash.
Okay,
Ton of
so
wasted
I
cash.
want to drill into that. You've mentioned a couple times tech tools. You
Yep.
just mentioned automation. So like again, to set the backdrop for everybody, you have a big product catalog. You can't police. It's like, at Guardian Bikes, we didn't necessarily have this problem. We had like 6 or 7 SKUs, maybe 8 SKUs on Amazon. That's one thing. You've got several hundred SKUs. You're cranking on volume. Like it's becoming more and more complicated to like police things. Maybe you have Vendor Central as well. Maybe you have vendor and seller. Even if you're just on Seller Central and you have several hundred SKUs, it's a lot it's a lot to manage. Like, what are some of the just run through some things that come to mind in terms of tech tools or automations or whatever that have been like super, super helpful as you've grown these different brands on Amazon.
Yeah, well, my experience going back to 2009 and 2010, really up until now, is I've done the operations side. I know all of the pain points there, and there's a lot of pain points. And I've served every role on the Amazon side, including brand owner, because I have an additional brand called Second Childhood that's over to the side that's on 3P. But then, yeah, with that tools, you're growing a business. Okay. If a brand is growing itself, then you probably have other retailers are growing. Maybe your Dick's Sporting Goods business is growing and everybody's battling for advertising budget. Everybody wants headcount. I would ask for headcount, and a lot of times it would be met with, why can't you just do it? And at first, I'm like, well, dude, I'm already doing this, that, and the third, and things like that. And then I don't know. I've always had business leaders that would throw challenges on my lap to see how I'd handle it. And what I started to do is learn that I don't need to be inside of every single advertising campaign. I might have 200 advertising campaigns open that I'm going in manually. Okay. You bring on the right advertising tool, they collect all that data. Then you set up rules for every ad campaign. Hey, if you have 7 clicks and no sales and you've spent $10 over the past 7 days, I want you to bring that bid down by 30%, or maybe I want you to negate it. And so you're now applying these smart logics to a portion of your business. But then, I remember I used to have somebody that would help me every single week go to every ASIN, every Amazon detail page, and mark what the price is so I could find out what had dropped and I could sell more.
Hmm.
Then all of a sudden you get these dashboards where it's like, oh, you're tracking my BSR, my best seller ranking. When I see a bestseller ranking improve, I'm literally I'm going back to Street Fighter 2. I'm hitting the button because you have to move quick. Once you see an opening, you go hard, because then you have the chance to break a bank. When you break a bank in the Amazon world, it feels amazing. But these different tools, like, I learned that I could do a lot of it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started taking things like advertising that was taking me 15 hours per week. I got it down to 30 minutes a week.
Wow.
Just think
What
all that. Yeah.
I know these tools are changing all the time, but what were some of the ones that you've used over the years that like really were the most impactful? I'm just thinking about Pack View from back in 2016. We were using that on our Amazon. Is Pack
Oh,
View still around?
no. It was funny, man. I got to go to a conference. It
Hmm.
was the IRCE show in Chicago, Internet Retailer Conference. I don't know what it stands for. I literally went to every single booth, and talked with these people, and they all gave me their pitch, and I took away brochures. I went back to my hotel at night. I had the craziest amount of imposter syndrome I've ever had because I'm like, how am I going to learn all of these tools?
Hmm.
Then when you kind of figure out how to use a full, it was okay. Then let me go back there. I got all these brochures. I'm trying to figure it out. Oh my God, they all cost money. What am I going to do? I developed an early relationship with IntentWise, IntentWise on the Amazon advertising side.
Yep.
But me and Srinath Reddy,
Isn't Srinath
yes,
their CEO?
Srinath and I, we sat at a table at the IRCE and we talked about life, man, because I was on his platform and I bailed to go to Techometrics, Takeometrics, whatever it's called. You do that. You jump into new software because you want to see what can help you. Then I eventually came back to Srinath, and Srinath's always been a homie of mine. Like that dude looks out for me. I know what's going on in his family and asked me about my family, and it's a real relationship. And so I worked with him very early on. Him and Ragu, like building the platform, I would help them close customers and different things like that. But I learned how you can use this tech tool to save a lot of time. So it really started with Srinath Reddy. And then from
How
there,
long has IntentWise been around for? I know who they are, and I know them through straight up growth. But how long have they been around for? Like, how long have you known them for?
I would say like 7 years or something like that. And then I honestly, my whole hustle was I would see who was going to be on Srinath's podcast. And I would listen to these people just like you're doing. And I'd say, wow, I want to be friends with this guy. And I'd hit these people up and form relationships. So along the way, there used to not be as many tools.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you can take Daniela Bolzman, do you know Daniela?
Yeah, from why am I blanking on the
Mindful
name of her
Goods,
company? Yeah, Mindful Goods. Yeah.
expert level. Okay. Like what she does to a detail page. All right. You give them an ASIN. Then she shows, oh, yeah, yeah, we can do new hero images, new secondary images. We're going to do this. We're going to update your copy. Then on your brand store, we're going to do this. For me, like sometimes working at brands, you don't have those resources available to you. So somebody like
Totally.
Daniela can give you amazing feedback on your detail page you never would have thought of. Then all of a sudden you have a tool. If you have an ASIN that needs a lot of love and you don't have the resources internally, you work with somebody like a Mindful Goods. There's there's ways where you can get money. I don't know. There's all of these hacks within the
Totally.
business. Yeah.
Well, no, I think you're bringing up a good point, which is that you don't have to bring, you don't have to do all these things yourself. You don't have to staff them all up with internal employees, right? Whether we're talking about, just to summarize a few things that you've mentioned, like going through all of your ASINs and or like dealing with all of the campaign like bid strategies one by one, right? Or Daniela, we actually have a few mutual clients. Her company's been fantastic on getting listings optimized, which optimized listings both from a content standpoint, like creative slash content, and an SEO or keyword standpoint, super important for Amazon because it's so pay per click driven, right? And there's so much competition, and it's not the same. When you drive someone to your Shopify store, they're not looking at another brand right next to it on the same page, right? It's not the same strategy on Amazon as it is on your D2C store. And so I think the point that you're making that's super important is that like you don't, in today's world, there's tech tools and there's outsourced service providers who can specialize in that thing that you need support on, right? And like, I mean, I know brands that have a 10, 15, 20 million dollar Amazon business and their Amazon team internally is very small. It's either one person who's just like the, director of Amazon or VP of Amazon, or their VP of growth. Amazon is just one of the things that person oversees, and it's literally all tech tools and agencies or outsourced service providers that basically run that channel. It was a bit different in my experience 10 years ago. You saw a lot of huge Amazon brands before Amazon got even more competitive that maybe like built a business to like 50 million a year on revenue or in revenue on Amazon, and they had like a little Amazon department. but you don't really need that anymore, at least in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I just, you have some shared resources. Normally, I don't know, the brands I'm working at, where an Amazon business is anywhere from 5 to 15 million. You probably have maybe two people working on it, and those people literally know how to do everything top to bottom.
For sure.
Now, then when you start scaling, you have more cash flow to operate out of, as long as you're keeping your A costs down on the advertising and things like that, which is a challenge because there's more competition than ever. But I was just always open to free audits. Anybody who wants to audit my business and give me feedback, I would take all the constructive criticism and I could wear it. I know there's a lot of people internally, though, is they don't want their higher ups, or they don't want these audits run, because if somebody comes back and says, hey, you have 10,000 wasted dollars on this ASIN the last 30 days,
Hmm.
somebody gets like super defensive.
For
I just
sure.
wasn't like that. And I was able to get these software tools implemented, not all of them, but you get a few implemented and you can actually show how much time is being saved. And then you say, hey, with these 7 extra hours per week, this is where I'm dedicating time and this is how I'm growing the business. And then it just becomes the software tools can, you don't want them to be interchangeable. It would be nice that you could set it and forget it. But on the advertising side, there, you mentioned pack view, there's intent wise, there's literally Tenuity can manage your advertising, straight up growth, like Daniel's a wizard when it comes to all of
Yeah.
this. When
Yeah,
I
he
had
is.
him audit my business at Clevermade, I was like, dude, oh man. And Mark was, I'm like, dude, because I'm like, oh, he's gonna find a bunch. Here's the thing, man. You're never going to be the best at anything. You got to lean on other people that have these niches that they're amazing at. What Daniel was able to do on the advertising side, what Daniela was able to do, what Srinath's been able to do, what Rohan's been able to do. Like if you're talking revenue recovery, all these different businesses, Rohan, what he's done with Dime Tide, the technology, it's really the tech players that are involved. And when you see rapid growth in a tech space and you see the maintenance on the tech improving constantly, it gives you that confidence to keep using it for your business.
I mean, I think there's a really important lesson for everyone to draw out of all of this, right? Is that the ecom brands of 2024 and beyond are scrappy, right? Like there was a period during COVID where brands got fat because honestly, because venture capital was chasing ecom, because during COVID it was like, man, that was an asset bubble that was popping off, right? And during asset bubbles, capital, outside capital, gets attracted to that asset bubble. The people who are operating businesses in that asset bubble get fat, right? They start their businesses get fat with overhead, they get lazy, they don't have the constraints of being profit focused, right? And being capital efficient. But those days are behind us, right? That bubble has burst. And now we're back to running scrappy ecom brands, right?
Well,
That
I
in large.
love it, man. I love it. And you really like the LinkedIn game. Say what you want about LinkedIn, but I go onto the feed and I read Martin Heibel. I don't even know if it's Hubel or Heibel. It's this dude out in UK. The dude drops absolute gems about Amazon with fire emojis and all of this. And, if you're following him, um, who is it? Destiny Watson. I think that's her name. Like she's enough. You follow these 5 to 10 influencers in the Amazon space who drop knowledge. Like, dude, when they would talk about Amazon, I would just be like, taking notes, learning, then going into vendor central groups on LinkedIn, seeing what people are talking about. You can't just kick it and do the same things you were doing a year ago. You have to go to these conferences. You have to listen. You have to talk to people. It's exhausting to network, but guess what, dude? You're going to meet new people that are doing different things that you're not doing that you're going to have to apply to your business. If you do exactly what you did last year, you're losing the next year. You're losing and somebody's coming to eat your lunch.
You know what I'm realizing right now, Tim, as we've just been riffing on like various aspects of scaling an Amazon business. One thing that you've said, and basically in some area of your response to every question I've asked, you've talked about the relationship and the networking aspect, right? Of that thing. Whether it's like seeking out the tech tools or it's seeking out the right service providers, or you're saying like following influencers or going to conferences and like trying to consume content. The bottom line is if you're scaling an ecom brand on Amazon and or your Shopify store, things are changing all the time. Ecom is a hard space and it's always changing. And one of the ways that you keep up with the game is consume content and stay active in your network. What I always like to say is like you as the brand founder, you have got to create the space to get outside of your business, right? You've got to have the right systems, processes, and people in place to get outside of your business and get out into the marketplace to hear the chatter about what's going on. That's how you see around corners. That's how you stay up with the evolution. And the thing about ecom is the one thing that's always going to be the same is it's always going to be evolving, and it's always going to be evolving super fast. And so like definitely like take some of these stories that Tim has told here today, right? Internalize that and go like, hey man, here's a guy who's been hustling to create a network, and in that network gone like, bam, here's all these resources that I can use to scale this Amazon business, right? And you should be doing those things in your ecom brand as well. Like don't ever underestimate the power of getting out into the marketplace, forging relationships and drawing on those resources, because like it's going to serve you super well. And I would even say it's 100% necessary if you're going to scale successfully over the long term.
How crazy is this? Like, do you know what's okay? So when I say revenue recovery, do you know what revenue recovery is? I don't know.
I
Like to
I
me, it's
I do, but can you explain it for the audience?
yeah, so Amazon's remittance process. Okay, you got Kathy in accounting who's trying to make sense of however many Amazon fulfillment centers there are. Then when you have the weekly replen orders, you're sending out sometimes orders to every single distribution center that Amazon has. Then if you have 100 to 200 SKUs, think of how many line items are getting processed. Then Amazon takes their various back-end deductions, but they do it off a deduct from payment. So it's a chaotic remittance process where you're unable to tie things up from a cash application process. So you no longer can go after these, on 1P, you have back end programs, you have co op, you have defective allowance, freight allowance. On the 3P side, you have FBA fees. Then you have like inbound shipments. So there's all of these things where Amazon takes money from you, but they're not doing it in a malicious way by any means. Like, dude, look how much Amazon scaled. You think they're having the same issues that brands have as well.
Totally.
But there's these automated tools, some automated, some manual, some a mix, that'll audit. They'll go back 18 months, they'll go back a few, all the way up like 3 years, and they'll go try to find dollars for you that you haven't been able to get with no work from your team. Hey, what if I said, hey, John, do you want some free money right now?
Yeah,
What
I'm
would you
in.
say?
I'm in.
Okay, now but the people below you are saying, hey, if I show you that I'm going to give you free money, then they're going to look like they're not doing their job right. That's not the narrative. The narrative is, dude, you can't hire 15 people in accounting. So if you use these revenue recovery tools to audit back business, you go find money, you don't have to do anything. Literally all the disputes are filed. And you get money back directly from Amazon. On the 3P side, on the FBA side, you used to be able to go back 18 months. Okay, you're talking lost damage, you're talking inbound shipments, FBA fees, these disposals, different things like that. Because I worked on the software side. I worked for 3Colt, so I saw all this. Dude, October 23rd, you can only look 60 days back.
Oh, that sucks.
It sucks, but dude, there's so many brands that go back and get the 18 months. And they're like, no, they're asleep at the wheel. They're asleep at the wheel. And it's crazy to me. You literally have 1 month to go get money back that you're not going to get ever again. And people are like, no, we got Cindy who handles all of that. And I'm like,
No, it's way too much work. So that 10 years ago or 8 years ago, we were doing all that reconciliation ourselves with Guardian Bikes before these some of these tools existed, but it was like they weren't as prevalent. We did all this manually, and I'm gonna just say right now for the audience, it is a ton of work, and it's not worth the effort of the team if you can just outsource it. And probably, and I would say outsource and get better results. Actually, like these tools are, they find way more money than your team could find, and you just pay them a cut, and you still net way more than you would net if you did it yourself, and you don't distract the team. You don't distract your team from where they can really add value. So like what Tim is saying is like a very good example of how to leverage some of these services and or tech tools to go a lot further faster on your Amazon business. And a lot of times they're little known to a lot of brands, which actually leads me to my next thing. What I wanted to ask you about, Tim, is the RetailRx. What do you guys do at the RetailRx, and like how do you help brands?
Oh man, it's crazy story, you know. So I've been on the brand side forever, you know, running Amazon business, but also going and calling on brick and mortar accounts, going to Bed Bath and Beyond for line reviews or Sports Authority, Academy, like these different ones. So I've just gained a lot of experience. And as I've used some of these software tools, I just saw that, wow, these tools are something that nobody's really using. And so I started to use my network to tell them, like, hey, you know, have you tried IntentWise for advertising? No, we don't do anything for advertising. We do, you know, so then I started talking about these various tools. So then I set up referral agreements with some of the solutions that I thought were best. And then the way it would work is I just use my network. I talk to a lot of the same people I'm talking with anyway. We're sharing tips. Like that's always happening. But now I have these tools and I've just spent a lot more time. I'm 100% software world. I'm like tech tools and all of that. And so now I'm not on the brand side like I was in the past, but I'm able to help so many brands with these tools that they never knew about. Herschel Supply Company. Oh, I wear Herschel Supply Company. Like I love Herschel Supply Company. Dude, found them a lot of money and helped with processes and visibility where, dude, that's major. So I'm able to work with brands with the Retail RX that I really care about and help them. And I'm the guy who opens up a jacket and has 6 different solutions to offer
Hell
you,
yeah.
but brands don't pay me a penny. I get my cut from the solution. So they get free agency like help
Yeah.
working with me, and then I give them a prescription to a healthy bottom line.
I love
That's
it.
the
Retail,
RX.
hence Retail RX. I
And
love that, man.
well, dude, what happened was like during the pandemic, I deal with a lot of mental health stuff myself. I'm not on pills, right? I've been on pills. I've, you know, struggle sleeping, all of this. A lot of people on the digital side, we got the same struggles. Just a lot of people don't bring it up. During the pandemic, I was like a therapist to a lot of people working at the company. And here I'm going to get help, but I saw a lot of other people needed help. And so it just became, yeah, let's be friends with each other. Let's gain confidence. Then I'll talk about ways you can help your business. And I'm not that salesperson going, hey, you need to do this, maybe. No, I'm going to be, dude, what's going on? What music are you listening to? What's going on with the Mets? The Mets need to slow down because my Padres are going, you know, when you build these types of relationships, then it's a yo, check this out, check this out. And so now I'm selling software, but I'm selling to be able to go to somebody at a business, find them money that they didn't know about. They get to bring it to their boss and say, I just found X amount of dollars. If their boss treats them right, it's not a pat on the back, it's not a high five. It's a hey, I'm giving you other opportunities, or I'm going to give you more money to spend on your Amazon business to double, triple what you're already doing. So now, when you see that you can empower a director of eComm, an account manager, something like this, normally it took them 10 hours a week to build their reports via spreadsheet. Now you just work with like a merchant spring and you just get all of that data coming over. You work with You work with Srinath who feeds the data over. You got to have somebody that can do SQL on your side. You got to have somebody that can build reports. That's somebody like a Scott Kennedy who's a G in the space. And so you really have to know you're never going to be on top of your game. So just know that. But know if you leverage the right tools, you can get up ahead of things. And then if anybody up above asks you about your business, what do you need? A report here, advertising info here, stock levels here, boom, boom, boom. You know how many ad hoc reports I used to have to do working at the corporate level that would take, bro, I'm not good at spreadsheets. I can do a VLOOKUP, but like you want me to do, no, no. Now you just use dashboards and then you do data dumps and you do some pivot tables, you put it into a, it's clean. So if
I love
people
that.
can just, people just can say, hey, I can't do everything. Let me use software tools. Then maybe you get to go watch Susie play her soccer game at 3:30 p.m. or go to a soccer practice or something like that because I've long been that guy like, no, I got to do this. No, use some software tools.
I love that. So for those of you who are interested in what Tim can connect you with, well, a couple of things. One, what Tim's walking through here is that like the reality is that there are things you should be doing in your business and there are things you shouldn't be doing in your business. But it doesn't mean that just because you shouldn't be doing them, those things don't need to still get done, right? And we're in the year 2024 in the ecom world. One of the great things is data availability, right? And so there's like software tools out there that can help get all those things done, but give you the insights that you need to make really valuable scaling decisions, right? So it's just a kind of like leveling you up to another level. So, if you can go do that research yourself, or you can save a lot of time and a lot of money, and you can go to a guy like Tim at the RetailRx, and you can just get the menu as he learns more about you and your business. You can get the menu of what he thinks can help you and why, right? So again, going further, faster. So like Tim, like before we shut down for this episode, where can people find more about you and the RetailRx if they're like, man, I'm like interested in learning more about these tech tools, right? Like where can people find you? Where can people find more about the RetailRx?
LinkedIn is going to be the main spot. Just LinkedIn, my own profile. Yeah, I post a lot of random stuff about tech, but it's all under Tim Clark. Retail RX, I need to get some posts going on there, but I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of anxiety posting different things like that. But
Nah, you
yeah,
just got to
reach
go
out to
for
Tim
it, man.
Clark.
You got to
And
just go for it.
another thing that I wanted to point out, I know as you're trying to end this, but like I met you through what Evan and Daniel did. They threw a happy hour. Like I got outside my comfort zone and started talking with Evan, started talking with Daniel, started talking with Srinath, started to like over and over all these names, but we were on that happy hour. There was 12 people. There was they gave us a DoorDash gift card. So everybody got food. I walked away with like friendships out of there. Duran's my homie. Duran, follow,
Totally.
everybody needs to follow Duran. That dude is hilarious, but it's not, it was Daniela, it was Duran, it was and it made people like normal at a time that wasn't normal.
For
So like
sure.
go to these conferences, figure out who to watch. Dude, follow these people, watch the moves they're making, and then reach out to them. Because
Yeah,
even if
connect
you
with them. They're
think
real. They're real people, right? Like, I mean, no, I look. I actually love this, Tim, that you're calling everyone to action here.
yeah,
Like to wrap this all up, because again, if there's one thing that we've talked about over and over again in this episode, it's the networking, right? And yeah, we're talking about Amazon growth strategy. We're talking about how tech tools can aid you in going further faster. But at the end of the day, how did Tim find all these things? What has been the common thread in Tim's journey? Networking with people, right? And some of these other things we've talked about have just been the result of that. And Tim's exactly right. You're exactly right, man. Like I met you on that virtual happy hour, and actually I have got several people from that. That's how I know Daniela. There's the guys over at Attention Agency who are down there in SD with you guys. We're we're super tight with them now. Yeah, Bobby came to, funniest thing, a few months after that, Bobby came to Austin where I'm at, and was like, hey, I'm gonna be in Austin. Like, let's go to dinner. And like we're good friends now. We have several mutual clients. They're a great agency, and I think what you're saying is important, which is that like get out of your business, get out of your comfort zone, go reach out to people virtually and in person. Go to these things. They're worth it. And I will. Here's how I'll kind of like tie a bow on this. At Free to Grow CFO, if you follow my content, one thing I talk about is our core values. Our first core value, it's first because it's most important, it's relationships. We're in the relationship business. We're not in the accounting and finance business. We're not in the scaling eComm brand business. We do those things, but we're in the relationship business. Business is relationships. I don't care what you sell. I don't care if it's a service. I don't care if it's a product. Like, business is relationships. You study any, like Andrew Carnegie, like any, like if you go back and you look at Mark Cuban, they all have very interesting stories around their ability to network and forge relationships. And so if there's one thing you can take away from this episode, it's that. Get out there, network, connect with people, get out of your business, learn what's going on, and take advantage of that thing that makes us uniquely human, right? Which is the ability to have real relationships. So, man, Tim, I love this.
Yes, dude, I messed up that girl's name, bro.
What was
I
it?
can't,
Well,
dude, I don't even know.
you
I
can't
don't
find
like.
it.
I'm
You can't
trying.
find it. I'm gonna have you. You're gonna have to look that up. We're gonna have you back again.
Okay, okay, I got it. I got it. Destiny Wishon.
Okay, you weren't that far off. I think you said Watson.
Yes, maybe her name used to be Watson. I don't know, but she's a good follow. Daniel Tejada, the guy Martin out in the UK. There's a guy named Don who drops gems. I'm trying to, Don Sullivan, maybe. I don't know. Follow the right people. See what they have to say about Amazon. And yeah, man, dude, pleasure to come on. Like, I feel like we might have our own podcast after this. Like,
Well,
let's go.
did you stop doing the RetailRx podcast?
No, I'm gonna bring it back. So it was my, you know what I mean? Like it evolved probably more into like a mid 90s podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is another one of my brand that's, but it's really just somebody coming over, shooting the shit, and then showing some normalcy in everybody's life. And I think
Yeah.
work-life balance is a huge piece of this all. So all of these people working so hard, doing software hacks, different things like that, also have some hobbies that are away from your work and not on your computer and things like that, because it's only going to make you better for everything that you're doing going forward.
I agree, man. When you bring that back, hit me up because I'm from SoCal. I'll fly out to go see my parents for the
Yes.
week. I'll come down to San Diego and
Yes.
we'll talk about my days actually in San Diego playing in a signed thrash metal band. We played
Yes,
brick by
dude.
brick, Jumping Turtle, Soma, the whole 9 yards. So that's if you bring that back, I want to be the first one back on that show, and we're going to be talking about my band
I might grow. Should we grow our hair out for it and just
dude,
have
I'm
like?
in. I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is definitely not our last conversation. Check out Tim on LinkedIn. If you're interested in how he could help you, definitely hit him up. And, as you guys know, if you want any more helpful tips on scaling a profit-focused D2C brand, consider following me, John Blair, on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in learning more about how free-to-grow CFOs, D2C accountants, and fractional CFOs can help you increase profit and cash flow as you scale, hit us up. You can find us on our website, freetogrowcfo.com. And until next time, scale on.
Scale on.